So, hello. You know what I need? One of those roll-up green screens. Then I won't have to deal with that. I've cleared it up about 3 times this school holiday, and it's the kids. Over there, that side, that's my keyboard. Because if anything breaks in this house, youngest takes it apart and then scatters all the pieces across the floor. So, yay. Anyway, I've got a brief amount of time to do a video, which I haven't done because I've been slacking off, and also because I haven't had any time. So we're in the last week of the school holidays now. Actually, to be honest, I'm a little bit nervous about sending the kids back to school, but, you know, so it's sort of bittersweet. But it's also 9 months on tea, which is pretty cool. In terms of changes, yeah, not a lot, as you can see. I've got pimples. I've got back acne. Real sexy. But to be honest, not a lot has changed. Sorry about that, a child came in. So, yeah, 9 months, and to be honest, still getting misgendered, still being read as female. And I'm not entirely sure whether that's going to change, to be honest. There's always that worry, you know, that what if I left it too late? You know, I'm 35, I know, and there's an awful lot of things that I can't, I don't know if I left it too late for it to really affect me properly, or if just genetically was always going to be kind of soft looking. And you know, it doesn't help that I'm tiny. I'm really, really short, and so I'm read as a teenage girl at that. I mean, it could at least be a teenage boy, but no, teenage girl, consistently. And I mean, in a way it's eye-opening, because it shows you, I mean, I've been read as a teenage girl for most of my life, and it kind of highlights how shittily a lot of adults actually treat people they think are teenagers, because I get people glaring at me just for, like, walking down the fucking street. It's ridiculous. And it's because they think I'm a kid, and they associate teenager with trouble or something. So I stop to, like, take a photo of something, or to, you know, have a look at something, and they're immediately on alert, as if thinking, oh, is that person looking to steal something? Can you not bang things?
Sorry.
And that's kind of frustrating, but still consistently girl. So my voice has kind of hit that point where it's at, I don't know, midway point, I suppose. I don't know if it's going to drop more or what. It could take years. My neck's hurting. You know, I don't know. And I don't really know where I stand with it all, to be honest. I mean, I feel a lot healthier, and I feel a lot more mentally stable. My family have all remarked upon how much more content I seem to be. So, from a medical standpoint, it's done wonders. It's been awesome. But from a changes perspective, aside from getting a bit fuzzier, it's not really done a heck of a lot. Which is, I suppose, disappointing in a way, because, you know, you always see people, particularly at like 9 months in, really starting to have that deeper voice, and really starting to at least sometimes pass, and that's just not happening. And I think it's because you get this unrealistic skew in social media of the people who pass really well tend to be the ones who share about it, and you don't get so many people who really don't, and you don't see them as often. And I think that's a real shame, because a little bit of realism would be good, you know. Let's be realistic here, everyone reacts to it differently, and everyone has a different bone structure and everything to deal with. So everyone will have different results. And in my case, I think that I'm reaching a point where I'm never going to be like chiseled and all of that. I'm always going to have quite soft features. My father has quite soft features, you know, that's just my genetics. But it would be nice for people to at least pause and not immediately go to ma'am or miss. But that's just not happening yet. maybe in another 3 months, maybe in another year, I don't know. But I kind of hoped by this point that at least I would be able to have that sort of androgynous sort of thing where people would pause and be like, boy, girl, I don't know, but it just doesn't happen. I'm just read as butch woman, well, butch teenage girl actually, but which is frustrating because it's quite opposite of what I want to be. And I mean, nothing against butch women. Butch women are gorgeous and amazing. It's just it's not who or what I am. Butch is never a term I would have ever used to describe myself. I am not that. And there's a distinct difference between being butch and being male. You know, a butch woman is not a man. And a man is not butch, you know. They're very different things. And I don't want to be the butch woman. I want to be seen as, you know, a soft guy. But unfortunately it's not happening at the moment. In terms of other things, I still have very little strength to my voice. I mean, I can talk, but I can't shout, which is funny. I just don't have the ability to project my voice into a shout. I can't get low enough, but I also can't get high enough, and I can't do volume. Which I'm sure the kids find hilarious because I can't shout at them. And so I can't shout, I can't yell, I can't really scream either, which is an interesting one. Some mornings I wake up really scratchy throat, other times I'm fine, sometimes I'm really hoarse, sometimes it goes squeaky, you know, that it's sort of hilarious cliche which cracks me up. But generally speaking, it just is, you know. My skin is not actually oily, it's actually alright, because I know everyone was saying, oh, you get really oily skin, and I've got pimples, but I don't have like really greasy oily skin. It's fine, it's quite soft, so that's nice. But I am getting like a lot of the greasiness on my back and on my chest and all of that, and that's not brilliant. I purchased a binder, I've got 2 of them now actually, because I realised that my sports bras, which is what I'm wearing at the moment because I'm having a day off, see, don't really do quite enough, and because there's still that little bit of curvature there, it doesn't help with the being read as female. And so I got a couple of binders to see how they fit and everything like that, and it's... What do you want? No. Stay over there. Oh. Sorry, again, child. I have to keep stopping because he wants to run across the screen. Anyway, binders. And so I was curious about how they fit, and everything I read was like, be careful about wearing them, you know, you'll be short of breath, etc, etc. And what I found really interesting was that neither of them make me short of breath. And I don't know if that's just because I got maybe some slightly larger end of my size ratio. I mean, I measured myself and I took what that measurement was, but one of the companies, one of them's a Spectrum and one of them's G2BC, and the Spectrum one I was kind of slightly in between, and so I went with the larger one because they said if you're going to wear it, you know, regularly, to have the slightly larger one. But in my case, my shoulders are substantially broader than proportionately they should be for my rib size. So one of the measurements they had to take was your shoulder width, and so they measure across here, and I've got disproportionately broad shoulders, so it means that it fits fine here, but it gapes at the bottom. The other factor is that because I have hypermobility, I have a quite distorted spine. My spine is kind of collapsing in on itself, so I have a spine like a monster high doll. It literally goes whoosh. I could probably show you if I stand up, but because of that, can I show you? Yeah. Because my spine does this, see, it means that the binder sits here and gapes here because it's not really designed for a body that sways that way. It just isn't designed for someone with a weird body shape like mine. And so what I find is they don't put any pressure on my ribs, which is what I was very, very concerned about, because I have quite sensitive ribs. I get pain in them if pressure's put on them. Underwire bras cause massive crippling pain for me and always have. I can't wear anything that's, you know, tight across the chest because it causes pain to flare all down the ribs. And so I was really worried about that, but they don't actually push on my ribs at all. What they do is they push on my upper back, and so they make my shoulder hurt. Go figure. And so I tend to have problems with my shoulders anyway. So if I wear one for too long, I start to feel pain in my shoulder, and I think it's because what it's doing is it's forcing my spine to straighten in a way that because my spine does this at the top as well, and so it's kind of forcing my spine. It's like wearing a back brace, and my spine doesn't like that, so it starts to ache sort of here and in my shoulder. So I have to take them off, and so what I've taken to doing is I take a couple of days off with my sports bras because they're relatively comfortable if I'm not going out, whatever. And then I will wear my binder if I'm going to go out, and then in the evening I take it off, and I just, let everything go. And that seems to work quite well, because after an hour or so it doesn't hurt so much. But it was very interesting because I found that I don't get any of the breathing problems because it's not pushing on my ribs, so it doesn't push on my lungs. And so that's nice, I can breathe fine, I can slouch, I can lean back, I can lie down, I can do everything that I would usually do wearing one. The only problem I have is that, much like wearing a bra, it's uncomfortable here because you get sweaty and hot. And because a binder is substantially larger than a bra, because it comes down to, sort of just above your belly button, they're half binders, there's more area under which to sweat. And I find that really uncomfortable because I become very, very aware of them as the day progresses. I become very, very aware that I am wearing this tight layer that I can't sweat through. The back is breathable, the front isn't really. And so you're constantly sticking a hand up your top going like this because it itches, and it's not fun. But I find the same thing happens with bras as well. It's just less of an area. And the more I do go out and wear these things, the more I realise, how brilliant it would be to just be able to go and not have tits, just be able to snap your fingers and have them, go away, would be amazing. But as it stands, I have at least a 2-year wait before I can get to see anyone about this. I've been on the wait list for the GIC for, gosh, I think about 18 months now. And at the time they said there was a 2-year wait. It's closer to 3 years now. And I was nowhere near even getting an appointment when it started getting ridiculously long. So it's going to be quite a wait. And then you've got to wait for your next appointment before you can, get the consultations for top surgery and things like that. So it's probably a good couple of years off. But also, I'm really scared of surgery because I've been in hospital quite a lot in my life, and I have not had good experiences in hospital. And my last time in hospital, I legitimately nearly died. I had sepsis. I very nearly died. And so, stay hydrated. And so, that coupled with several things they did during my treatment left me pretty traumatized, and so the idea of voluntarily going in and putting myself through that, as well as the recovery time and not being able to wash properly and all of that horribleness, it makes me quite frightened, to be honest. It makes me go, do I really want to do it? Do I really want to do it just because of, comfort? And is it just really that bad? I mean, I've lived 35 years, I've had 20 odd years of this, I think it's, 25 years of this bloody shit, I can manage, it's fine, it's not that bad, do you have to? I did ask him to be quiet, but he's decided to make explosion noises. But I don't know. And on top of that, my family, particularly my partner, is really like, I don't want you to have surgery, I'm scared, I'm scared. So there's a lot of guilt with it as well, and that fear of regret and all of that. And so, if I had a magic lamp and a genie was like, what do you wish for? I'd be like, yeah, get rid of them, just go on. That'd be fantastic, but, realistically that's not going to happen, now is it? So, that's kind of where I am, to be honest, at the moment. I still haven't done my legal name change stuff because a lot of places are still being really weird about face-to-face appointments, and also they get a really, they can be really weird about your deed poll, because if you, even though legally your deed poll doesn't need to be printed on like fancy schmancy paper, they expect it to be printed on some fancy bullshit paper, because if it's just on a piece of paper, they're like, oh, what is this? It's nonsense. And I lost it for a while and I found it again, but I need to get it printed on fancy smancy paper, which then means I need to get it re-signed. And because people who aren't within your family bubble can't visit, I can't really get them to come over and do it. So it's just a bit of a pain in the ass at the moment, and also it's just not a huge priority to me. You know, my bank cards, nobody looks at the name on them, they're just initials anyway. And so I suppose my rationale there is that I'm kind of used to in my family, a lot of people in my family don't go by their birth name anyway. They go by something completely random. My grandfather went by a name that wasn't his name, wasn't even his middle name for most of his life. He never bothered to change his name by default. None of them did. They all just, you know, that was the name they went by. Everyone knew that was the name they went by, and their ID just happened to be, because only people who didn't matter would ever see that ID. And I suppose that's sort of where I am on that. I'm kind of with my grandfather on that. It's an awful lot of money, and it's an awful lot of stress and difficulty just to change a name, because I can't change the gender marker on a lot of this stuff anyway. You know, I can change some of it to say, you know, Mr. or Mix or whatever, but some of them I can't, and what's the point of changing it if it's still going to have the wrong gender marker on it, you know? It just, I don't know, I think the gender marker is more important to me, having the correct, you know, Mr. rather than Mrs. And I think because I already went through the stress of it when I changed my name when I got married, I don't want to go through that shit again. It was incredibly awkward, and there were so many agencies you had to go through, and so much fucking paperwork. And then, even when you thought you got it all done, there was inevitably something else you discovered that you had to do. And there's still, to this day, I mean, I've been married for over 10 years, there's still to this day certain things that are still not in my married name, because I forgot about them, and then I just couldn't be bothered, because it cost money to change them. You know, my driver's license, which is a provisional license anyway, because I never actually took the test, is in my maiden name. My passports are in my maiden name, because they were going to charge me a stupid amount of money at the time, and I only had like a year left on them. And so I was like, oh no, I'll just change them when I renew them, and then I never got around to renewing them. And so when I do renew my passport, I will go through the whole rigmarole. Renewing my UK passport is likely to be far, far easier than renewing my other passport, because, and this is the other awkward thing, even if we get gender reform in this country, in the UK, I can't take advantage of it, because I wasn't born in the UK, I was born in New Zealand. And the process in New Zealand is that you go to your local court, and you enrol in your local court, your new name change, and for a gender marker change. And they just do it at the local court. I live in the UK. I don't have a local New Zealand court, and I do not know how to do it. I have found no information online about how to do it. Do you go to the embassy? Do I have to fly all the way back and do it there? I don't know, because there is no information about it, and I cannot be literally the only expat transgender person out there. You know, there's got to be other people who have been through it, but I have no idea how to do it. There's no information. There is absolutely no information about how to change your gender marker if your birth certificate is from a country that you are not currently residing in. Yay! So I don't know how that will happen, and it's a couple of years off anyway, because you need to do the whole kind of lived blah 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 in a couple of years. It's nonsense, but it's annoying, because even if it was as easy as it should be, I couldn't do it here. It's like, oh god, oh. Sometimes being a foreign immigrant is just fucking pain in the ass. It really is. It's like my passport. I have a British passport, but I also have a New Zealand passport. But because my birth certificate is a New Zealand birth certificate, I can't get CRB checked properly over here. Instead, I have to literally go to the police department, have them fingerprint me like a criminal, which is hilarious, and then they can run the test. And it's like, what? I almost ended up doing that when I was trying to go for some job, but I just didn't get around to it, because booking it was a real pain in the butt. But yeah, and there's just so many of these small difficulties that no one really talks about, no one really tells you, you know. It's all meant to be so simple. Oh, you're a British citizen, that'll be very simple. It isn't. Because I'm a British citizen, but I'm not a British enough citizen, if that makes sense. I'm a foreign-born British citizen, which makes me something different. You know, national insurance contributions were an issue as well. You know, back when my eldest was born, because I didn't have enough to be eligible for benefits, because I hadn't lived in the country long enough. So I couldn't get benefits. I can now, but I couldn't then. It was freaking ridiculous. So yeah, that's how things are, and it's just kind of fun. But yeah, so I think that at the moment things are just chugging along. I'm still having to get my prescriptions privately because my GP can't do it or won't do it. I don't know, her boss won't let her do it. I think I mentioned this before, and so they're just being difficult, and I have no rights in the matter because, you know, patients don't. It seems that patients just don't, and I find that quite depressing, and I try kind of to avoid it because it just makes me feel really powerless and angry. Because, you know, you should have some right to be able to say, look, you know, I need this medication. You know, I haven't had a migraine in 9 months. I used to get them every 2 weeks, and I haven't had one since starting to. That is amazing. I haven't had any attacks of cramping either. The adenomyosis cramps, which feel like labour pain, they're horrendous. Anyone who has endometriosis will know what I'm talking about. It's absolutely horrendous pain. I haven't had any of those either. I haven't had the shooting pains in my arms. I haven't had the brain fog. I haven't had the silent migraines, which are terrifying because you feel like you had a stroke or something. You start slurring and you can't process words. You're not in pain, you just, something stops working. You know, my blood pressure is stabilising. Everything just seems to be getting to a point where, you know, even my swelling is going down. I mean, my fingers are still quite swollen, but my wrists, I have wrists. Oh my god, look at them. I have ankles. I haven't had ankles in years. A lot of the puffiness in my body has gone down. I've lost weight. You know, it's brilliant. It's made such a difference to my health, and it kind of highlights what I have been saying to the doctors for years. That was, my hormones are trying to frickin' kill me. Can you please help? And they just wouldn't listen to me. So, from a medical side of things, it has improved my quality of life immensely. But I have to fight for it, and I have to jump through hoops, and I have to prove my worthiness or some nonsense. I mean, can you imagine if they did it with any other drug? It's insane. But yeah, so 9 months. Unfortunately, not much exciting to tell, but you know, chugging along. Maybe in another month or 2 months, 3 months, maybe I'll have some exciting. Oh, I passed for the first time. Maybe I can live in hope. You know, fingers crossed. I can live in hope. But realistically, I think that it's better not to put too much emphasis into this idea of passing, this idea of, you know, physical transformation, because ultimately my goal when I started all of this was to be physically healthier. It was to fix the hormonal issue that I had going on, which was, you know, that my hormones were literally trying to fucking murder me. And it seems to have done that. Now, it's sort of, that was always the number one on my list goal, was to get rid of the pain, to feel better emotionally, physically. And I don't, you know, being called by the correct pronouns is kind of just like a cherry on top. You know, it would be nice, but it was never my primary goal, and I have to keep reminding myself of that ultimately that's not why I did this. I didn't do this to be seen as male, I did this to be seen as me. And I did this to be able to live my life healthily and without crippling pain and to actually be able to live, you know, because I couldn't previously, you know, I was bedridden. I was so sick, and so it's made an enormous difference to my quality of life, which, you know, that was what I intended, and that's amazing that it happened that way, and it raises a lot of questions about my biochemistry and about what weird crap is going on in my genes, but, you know, whatever, I don't bloody care at this point, you know, whatever is the reason for my body being as weird as it is, I don't really care as long as it's not hurting me. So, you know, and what's interesting is that genuinely no one asks, you know, like, at most I get asked if I have a cold by people who don't know. They're like, oh, your voice is quite, even people who know, they're like, oh, your voice is husky, do you have a cold? And you're like, what did you think was going to happen? But generally speaking, people just don't ask, you know, they don't really care if you've got facial hair or whatever, but they read you as female. They just might think, oh, that woman's a bit furry, isn't she? Oh, and then they just get on with their life. So maybe it's just the area I'm in. I'm very lucky to be in an area that just doesn't give a crap. But I haven't found anyone really gives me a second or glance or gives a crap. They just go, person, whatever. And that's nice, you know, it's kind of nice to just blend in, you know, but it's still kind of annoying that everyone defaults to ma'am. I really hate ma'am. It's such an awful word. It is a really horrible word and I hate it. But yeah, so, yeah, I painted my nails. Well, I painted 3 of my nails on each hand. You might ask why. There is a reason. It's because I bite my nails, and so this one was too short to paint because I chewed it, and my thumbs I always leave unpainted because I nibble on them and I do this to them, and I constantly rub them against my teeth, and so if they have nail polish on them, I end up, you know, ingesting a huge amount of nail polish. So I only do these ones, and well, I did this one, even though there was no thing on it, but I tend to only do a few of them. I like having painted nails, but it's a pain in the butt because I have tiny nails because I have tiny hands, and so it goes everywhere, and yeah, but that's right. And it's the same reason why, you know, I'm still wearing earrings, even though that would probably help me to pass if I didn't wear earrings. I'm kind of like, well, you know what, cis men can wear earrings, why can't I wear earrings? Getting my ears pierced was one of the first things I ever did in my life that was autonomy, you know, bodily autonomy. And I was 5 years old and I said, I want my ears pierced, I'm having my ears pierced. And then I had them done a second time when I was 17, you know, it was something I wanted to do, and so I did it. And it was important to me. And I'm not going to take them out just because society's like, no, I've seen cisgendered men with fucking huge diamante earrings in their ears, you know, they're really feminine. And they really bats a fucking eye. Listen, why can't I wear my little studs? They're just little silver studs. I mean, come on. The same goes for my ring, you know, my ring's gorgeous, my ring. So everyone can just fuck off with that, you know, because I have had that happen, you know, in transcripts where I've been like, oh, I keep getting called ma'am, what can I do, you know, it's kind of annoying, and people are like, oh well, you should try to dress like this, or take your earrings out, or don't wear your rings, and all of this sort of thing, and I'm like, oh, why should I? Or why should I change my presentation if it's how I like to dress and how I feel comfortable and all of that just to fit in and get someone call me mister? It's just swapping one costume for another costume, and it's stupid. And also, I'm not taking my fucking wedding ring off. You can pry this out of my cold dead hand. It's my wedding ring and I'm not taking it off. I'm not taking it off, ever! I refuse. I flatly frickin' refuse. And besides which, it's not that feminine anyway. It's a freaking garment. How's that feminine? It's huge and heavy and chunky as shit. It weighs a ton. It's weird because it actually is really heavy, and so if I take them off to like do baking or something, I feel like my hand's too light. I'm like, oh no, what is this? So yeah, so I'm not doing it. Yeah, I've rambled off too long. So 9 months. 9 months.